Majuki, help you, Irfan, and Zaya. So I think we will just have a chit chat and discussion. So Jaya, you also have already get your APG, right? Zaya? Hello? Zaya? Is
Sorry,
it?
I'm in a car.
Yeah, you already have your
Driving.
APG, is it?
Yeah. I'm
Okay.
in the car, and then sometimes my line is just on and off. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
It's okay. So because I have a lot of, I mean, in the group, we already have like 4 NS trainer. So you just and thank you guys for coming in, and I believe that we will have a good discussion about metastating dragon or about dancing with the dragon. So because that we already have this training before, I I think that we will have just a discussion about this pattern, so we can learn from each other and improving our knowledge from each other, right? Uh, okay, so I will start that. I didn't prepare a PowerPoint or everything, just shared from the PDF, and then we just discuss from that. Okay, but before I do with the PDF, yeah, let we can each other share experience about the metastating dragon or dancing with the dragon pattern. If anybody want to share about the dancing with the dragon patterns, or maybe Jaya, do you still remember about the the dancing with the dragon pattern? Is it what it's all about?
I, actually,
Hmm.
I never tried this pattern on someone, on myself. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm still, kind of in the process of learning all the patterns. I forgot
Hmm.
some of the patterns. That's why I'm just trying to remember, learn from you guys.
Hmm.
And I think it's the good opportunity for me to learn once again. I finished my meta coaching course last year. I haven't got my associate certification yet, so I'm targeting to get one and then learn from you guys. Yeah, that's my purpose at the moment. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Maybe Majuki, do you mind to share about the what's about the dancing with the dragon patterns about?
Mm. Uh, this pattern is pretty involved because you've got the part of the uh, uh, you have the part which is because it is about get handling the energies, the emotions
Hmm.
that you create against yourself. So
Hmm.
prior to this pattern, we talk about metastating concepts. So you are metastating the energies against that particular concepts. But dragons are when you put the energy against yourself. So
Hmm.
I find it a little bit problematic to run it
Hmm.
because there is a lot of loops going
Hmm.
around. So,
Yeah.
so that's the difficulty that I face as well. And the other difficulty is that in terms of practice, I have not so much practice with Dancing with Dragons because the APG program, 3 days,
Hmm.
I've never in 3 days able to run all the 14 patterns.
Oh, okay.
Typically, I was only able to run about 10 patterns. Only when I do APG in 4 days can I run the 14 patterns.
Hmm.
So that's why my experience with Dancing with Dragon is limited
Hmm.
because when I run the program in 3 days, typically Dancing with the Dragon is the one that gets put aside.
Okay, okay. So, but it's, sometimes you do a 4 days APG, Majuki.
Yes, yes.
Ah,
I'm sometimes I cannot stand my own perfectionist meta program just because there are 14 patterns. I need to run all 14
yeah,
patterns.
yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, it's good. Okay. Irfan, do you mind to share about your experience with this pattern? Thank you, Majuki, for the
Thank you.
sharing.
Dancing with Dragon is one of the trickiest pattern in APG, I think. Because sometimes when you're with a client, the client doesn't give you the actual dragon. They'll just give you the paw. And usually it's something behind the dragon itself. So my experience is the more you dance with the dragon, I'm using what we learn in problem conversation, that the problem is never the state, the problem is never the person, but the problem is always the frame. So if it's just a state, then I'll just figure out that this is not the real problem, it's just the symptoms. And if they're telling me what they're doing wrong or what they're feeling, then I'm just going to take it as a symptoms. Then I'm going to find the frame of the problem itself, because usually the dragon is much larger than that. During APG, I reserve, I think, about 2 hours for Dancing with Dragons, because I think this is one of the longest one than the others. And because this is the second day, and then you've done 2 patterns before this one. So you've done concepts and emotions before you do the dragons. So I think this is one of the most, not the most, but I think it's one of the challenging ones in APG. Since there's no real steps. What Michael gave you is just how you dance with it on all the 5 steps. Unless it's a real trauma or it's a real cognitive distortion track, in which is they have the steps. But dancing itself, you don't have any steps for it. So it's definitely one of the trickiest ones.
It's like dancing between the 5 steps, right? Okay. So I will just I will starting with the PDF so we can discuss from the description. Like we know that Evan just said that it's the second day of the APG that we are doing, and it's about that. And also from from Majuki also already shared, I think from the definition is that the dragon state is the toxic, I mean the limiting, the dysfunction, self-sabotaging state. I mean that we used to the energy, I mean the energy, the state that we are using, that we use it against ourselves. We can say that sometimes like they have I usually, let's say I using it with myself, that sometimes I can create, I'm not in a good state, then I can using it to against myself also, like let's say today, actually I have this headache in the morning, and I have this feeling, when you have this pain in your head, and you can use it you can use this energy to like attacking your own self, like why this happened, I don't like this happen, and then it's like this layering that inside our head that we already have. I mean, later on we have a bad relationship with this kind of feeling of pain, and because I didn't like this I didn't like this feeling, then I create this self sabotaging, or I use this energy that I'm feeling now to against myself, and it make me more painful if I'm not aware of that. Okay, so that's sometimes we are using it to against ourselves, that we have this feeling like Evan just said, how are you feeling today? Because that's in metastatic dragon is also we have we know the state, right? State is already something that we feel about the state, and because I don't like the state, it's like it's already said that we use the thought and emotion against ourselves. So we have these thoughts, we have this emotion, and we're using it to against ourselves. So that's what we call the dragon, right? And it can, we already know when we are not in a good state, when we are in a bad state, of course, it can interfere our path to being excellent, to self-actualization, and because this is in accessing personal genius, of course, it can interfere ourselves to access our genius flow state. Because when we want to, let's say, I want to genius in writing, maybe because when I want to write and then I don't feel comfortable with the writing, and because I'm in this state, and I don't like I didn't feel, let's say, the words are being stuck, and when I'm stuck, oftenly I'm easily to get this in this of not resourceful state. I'm using the words is not resourceful state. Then when I'm in this not resourceful state, this emotion, and I don't like this emotion, and I start using it to attack myself, to doubting myself, to create a not confidence of myself, to maybe just put an identity about that I'm not good at writing, just because that I'm this kind of state, right? So this is the dragon state, right? Or you guys have any others to add on something of it?
I think dragon state is a toxic state.
Yeah.
So, at this moment, so if we've learned about what state is, it's the conditions. It's your mental state, it's your emotional state, it's your physical state. So the dragon is something that's automatic, that comes up, and it's toxic, and it's limiting for you when you're when you're trying to do something, or when you are in front of somebody. So dragons is just a metaphor, and dragons are just what Michael used to represent the toxic state itself.
Yeah.
And since it's a toxic state, it's not like concepts, or it's not like emotions, where state is a combination of the two, or even it's just a combination with the body too.
Yeah, agree. Yeah, thank you, Evan, for the dragon is like, yes, it's a metaphor of a toxic state. Yeah, sometimes we got this stimulus and then we suddenly just being triggered of something, and then we are in this very toxic state, and we can get, let's say, sometimes we even not conscious that we can be angry easily, we just breathing, right? So and that's this pattern is all about. And I love these pages, you know. It's really helped me to understand about the metastating dragon, about that. It said that we have a bad relationship. The words that bad relationships, it means that I didn't like. I make a conclusion that it's merely a bad relationship with an emotion, a thought, or even an event, a thinking, or embodied state. These were the bad relationships that make me to really understand more about this pattern. You know? Let's say we can say that this dragon state can be triggered because of I have bad relationship with event. I mean, I'm this kind of event that's a stimulus. I'm in it, and I didn't like it. I have this bad relationship with this event, and it can trigger this dragon state, right? The difference, you know, for some happen in ourselves, we use we how we see things, how we feel things. We use a frame of reference to understanding something, to understanding an event, and because I have a bad relationship with this event, it can create a toxic state in me. Right? Let's say I didn't like the event of being loved by others. So just there's somebody that laughed at me, and then I didn't like that event, that kind of event. So when somebody just maybe he or she just do a simple laugh, and then I'm just starting to be in this toxic state, and then I just maybe being shy or being angry or something, right? So we need to understand what's the trigger of this dragon. Is it because of the event? I have a bad relationship with this event. I didn't like this event. Or, I have a bad relationship with the way of my thinking. I may think and I don't like the way I think. Like, there's I thinking of something and then suddenly I don't like this kind of thinking. I hate this kind of thinking. And that's how I use it to against myself. And then I'm fucked up. I'm just in this bad state, you know, and in this toxic state. Yeah. And then this is how it creates a Chinese ways of thinking. So it really helped me to being aware, you know, to being aware about that, how I think. That's a bad relationship. And then the bad relationship with a way of embodying a feeling in your body. Like, you know, there's how we give meaning, it's put we have a feeling inside ourselves. So so when you have this this state comes up. Yeah, like Ivan said before, that we can just suddenly feel something when we, let's say, we just in the some state. And when I'm in this state, or I'm in this feeling, and I don't have a good relationship with this feeling or this state, and then I start to hating it, and then how it's become the energy that attacking myself. Right? Let's say I use the word before that I have this headache, and I'm starting to hate it. I don't like it. I have bad relationship with this pain, you know. But suddenly I separate it with being pain and being suffer. This is two things. I can be in pain, but I cannot. But I can also be happily in pain. Right? Not happily, not at least natural in pain. You know? But if I don't like this feeling of pain, and I can use it to attacking myself, and it can be like embodied. So every time I get this headache, and I start to create this toxic state, I hate, and it make me it make me struggle, cannot doing something right, just getting angry easily, cannot doing works. Yeah. So for me, these pages is, I really like these pages when I try to explain. I'm sorry for my English, but I really, when I start to explain about the metastating dragon, I really love to start from these pages to help them to understand about how we can get a bad relationship with something, and because we hate it, we don't like it, it becomes the energy that against ourselves, you know. So from this, I can make just a little conclusion for me is that I need to able. That's why in this pattern we kiss the dragon. It means that we embrace, we being peace with the event, with the way of thinking, with the feeling, right? Because in the dancing with the dragon step, I think the number 2 or the number 3 is about the embracing, the kissing the dragon. So we are not, we're not hating it, we are not dislike it. We just aware that this is the event that create this feeling, create this state, but don't hate it, because the way you hate it, that's how you create the energy against yourself. Okay. Any add-on from you guys, Majuki or Irfan or Zaya or Hani?
Yeah, for me, it sounds like more. It's similar to acceptance, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
embracing the event, way of thinking, accepting that I'm thinking in that way, and then I'm being in that situation or in an event with this feeling. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna embrace it, I'm gonna accept it as it is, instead of, oh, I don't like this and that. Yeah, is it the main idea? Sounds like main idea is similar to, not sure if you run, you know, this pattern on someone, I can see the difference, but from you speaking, it sounds like similar to acceptance for me. Yeah.
Yeah, actually there's a difference between acceptance and embracing. Because how I call it accept, for me is that acceptance is like acceptance about something, but embracing is about that I embrace my state. There's more internally things, you know, embracing. So that's how is it. That's how I think about that. The difference about acceptance and embrace is more. We have friends. We being friends. We hugging each other. That's embracing. I can accept. Is it possible that I accept and I'm not embracing? Is it possible? I accept this situation, but I don't embrace it.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, there's difference there.
What do you think, Majuki? Seems like you have this thought.
Oh yes, like embracing sounds like for me loving myself or loving the state I am feeling. Because I know the reasons where I got this feeling, because usually it's from childhood event or whatever, you know, and so it's more like loving, embracing. It sounds similar when you explain. Yeah, acceptance, you're right. It's more accepting, and then it's not really, it could be, I don't have I could have a choice that I can accept or accept, and then it's still I don't like it. Even though I don't like it, I can accept some sort of event or feeling, right? So I can see the difference like between this,
okay.
Yeah, in this way, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, Marjuki, do you have any add-on?
Yeah. I see it in terms of the spectrum of rejecting to awe. So you have that spectrum. On the one end of the spectrum is to reject it, not wanting it. And then as you move up the spectrum, that's the point whereby you stop rejecting and you accept. So that's probably at zero. Rejecting is at negative. Yeah. Then you move up that scale, accepting, appreciating, and also probably embracing is somewhere between appreciating and in awe. Awe is probably at the higher end of the scale, so embracing will be somewhere between appreciating and awe. So probably that, if I were to look at it from that scale, I don't know. Yeah. But that's my way of thinking about what embracing is.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Fun, do you have?
I was thinking about the difference between embracing and accepting. I think embracing is more like even, for me, it's quite similar, though, for me. Because accepting, when you're talking about self, what Marzuki said, the continuum from rejection to acceptance, it's something that you cannot change. I think embracing is deeper than accepting, because embracing means it's like when you're hugging somebody, while accepting is just holding hands. So I accept you, but then I don't embrace you. Embrace is more like accepting it fully, if it makes sense. I think it's if you put it on a scale, then I think it's a little bit higher than acceptance. Because acceptance is something that you cannot change, but embracing, I think there's a certain value to it. So you give value to something that you embrace, especially with the dragons, because one of the steps that in the Dancing with Dragons is finding the positive in the states itself. So embracing is more like I'm valuing things that I might not like, things that I might not actually want to accept yet, but I'm giving it value. Therefore, I embrace it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so this is the way usually when I explain about the metastating dragon, I start with these pages, and I really love the way, especially the way the bad relationship with really helped me to understanding about, okay, so it's because I have this bad relationship with this thing, this event, this kind of thinking and this kind of feeling. Okay, so from this, then we go to, I can say that I never go to this pattern from the cognitive distortion. Just sometimes I go through reading it about the cognitive distortion. What's the cognitive distortion? About to help them to understand any kind of thinking. I mean, from the usually when I have that relationship with the kind of thinking, then there's a word of cognitive distortion. Then I going through with the participant about what's the cognitive distortion, the list of the cognitive distortion, just going through with them, so they at least have this kind of understanding about what's the cognitive distortion is about. And after that, then we go to this. We go to dancing with the dragon dancing. I really love the words that we dancing with the dragon. That's like this kind of metaphor is meaning a lot. Okay, seems like in my office there's sorry, that's distract me. Some people are suddenly crying. I think I think it's my friends.
What did you do, Yuri? What did you do?
No. I think just before I asked her, I think her mother just passed away. I think that's my.
Oh, I'm sorry.
My my mind reading, because just hours before I just talking with her, and she says that her mother is sick.
Deepest condolences to your friend.
Okay, so let's handle with this dragon later on. Okay, so the word dragon dancing is the dragon dancing is, yeah, for me it's like, why is the word dragon dancing? It means that we are dancing around, so we are really, we're not heading. Marjorie, I think before that, Michael didn't use a dragon dancing. It's using a slaying the dragon, is it? I mean, years ago, it's not a dragon dancing. I remember when I learned it at, I mean, 2008. I think it's a dance. It's not dancing with the dragon. It's more like slaying the dragon. Is it?
Okay.
I forget, but I think that's the changing about dragon dancing. Is, for me, it's like this word is okay. Like, okay, so we didn't, yeah, that's one thing that we didn't hate the dragon. We really, yeah, embracing the dragon. So we dancing with it to not create the internal conflict, right? Because the dragon is that the internal conflict. Okay, so yeah, so the pattern is, we already know. We first, that's the step is name the dragon, embrace the dragon, kiss the dragon, and then after that we analyze, and then we stop, and then we frame. Right? That's the step of the how, I mean, the tango step. This is the dancing dragon, dragon dancing step, you know. Okay, so there's a 5 dance step. Like, yeah, first we need to name the dragon, embracing it, analyzing it, and then we stop, and then we frame. Like the distinction that we need to know when we want to run this pattern is that, is there a moment that when we use, we turn our thought feeling against ourselves, and we use our thought and feeling to attack ourselves. I mean that when we think about this and then we didn't like it, and then we just using it to attacking ourselves. Let's say when I think about that, I cannot do this, and then I start not liking, I didn't like the way I think, because I think, why I need to think I cannot doing it? Why this thinking is coming? What's this? Why I feeling this? Why I'm not able to do it? And then I start not, and the way I saying it is not in optimism or in a way of careers, but the tone, the sounds is like I'm not liking it. You know, there's a sound between careers and disliking. If I careers, why I'm thinking like this? Difference from I didn't like why I'm thinking like this and I'm not liking it. That's a difference when we are using in our internal tone, right? So we need to aware when we use, is there a thought and feelings that we are using it against ourselves, that we are using it to attack ourselves. And this such self-attack put ourselves in an odds and unresourcefulness, right? So it's already said that dragon is just a metaphor for the unresourceful state, for being in self-conflict. So when we are having this conflict, yeah, we attacking ourselves, right? So this is pattern that we can use. Okay. So when the elicitation question that we can use to use this pattern is that, do we have a strong unresolved state? If so, what? Yeah. What dragon do you have in your mind about your experience? Okay, I mean, so we can already know the unresourceful state. The dragon is that this state is that, do we have a time that we are attacking ourselves, that we are yeah, not liking what we think, not like there's a bad relationship with some kind of event, then we start using it to attack ourselves. We have this kind of thinking and we don't like the thinking and we start to attacking ourselves. we feel something, we in some state, and we have a bad relationship with this state or feeling, and then we use it to attack ourselves. Is there a moment that we are experiencing that? Okay. How is a thought, a feeling, and experience a dragon to you? How do you, how it's become a dragon to you? Okay. So this is the elicitation question. Now let's discuss about the step, right? I really love to discuss this step. This actually dancing with the dragon is one of the pattern that I love because that's the kiss of the dragon. But I know it's very long, and I also have a bad experience with this pattern. You know, I remember I used my second APG class batch. I run this pattern, and it takes a very long time, like just Ivan said, about an hour to run this pattern because, you know, the dragon is chasing. We embrace, then another dragon is coming up, and we just analyzing. Then this dragon is coming up. Suddenly, one of the participants stood up and said, because at that time, Neuro-Semantics is something new. At that time, they already believe about something fast, how we can solve the problem fast, you know, how about 5 minutes or 2 minutes we can solve some problem. So this one of the participants, he just stand up and he said that your pattern sucks. It takes very long time. Yeah, but that's but still I love this pattern because of the embracing part, you know. Most of the how we can really embracing something. So yeah, let's naming the dragon. First, the first step is that we need to naming the dragon. We need to because we need to frame it so we can. For me, it's like when we can name it the dragon, at least it becomes something nominalization. At least it becomes some nominalization. It's become things, you know. So it can be seen. It seems like can be seen, but if you don't put a name, it can be a lot of things, right? So so first, we need to naming the dragon, identifying the state. What state the element? The question that we can use this. What's the state? How do you know that it limits you, interfere with your patient or undermines you? What do you call this dragon state? How do you name it? What else could you call this dragon besides just a dragon, right? What name can you give to this toxic state? We need to put a name. Okay, so this is the question that in what area are you turn your psychic energy against yourself? Maybe we can also thinking about it. The time that we are being using this energy against ourselves, this psychic energy. Psychic is it psychic? Psychic, like for me, is like something, you know, we reading people's mind, we can predict the future. Is it that psychic, or this is a psychology things fun?
I think it's psychology things. I don't think Michael deal. I don't think Michael deal with psychic powers. Although I think he has some.
Okay. Okay, so this psychology energy, I mean, something inside our mind that we are using against ourselves, right? Because we are, we think, we do thinking, we do feeling, we do self-talk, right? And especially, I remember once sorry, I jumped a little bit, right? Because starving the dragon, you know, there's I remember once there's I read, but I didn't find it any more in a manual. I remember once that the way we feeding the dragon is by the language, right? By the language that we are used inside our mind, that's how we feed the dragon. So So how's the language that inside our mind, what's the words that we are using in our minds, that's kind of things that are we using the words that against ourselves, that create this kind of bad relationship with the event that we need to find out. Because as you hear yourself say that, is that the kind of things that you say that feed the dragon? I mean, how we feed the dragon is by the words or the language that we are using. Okay. So we can use this question to identify what's the dragon, right? What's the toxic state? What have you taboo in your life and you are not allow yourself to experience? Most of the time is that we create this dragon is that we have this taboo that we are not allowing ourselves to experiencing something. That's how we create this dragon. Like maybe let's say speaking in English in front of English people speaking, and I didn't allow myself to let's say because of my English are not my something that I used to I'm fluently using. If I'm not allowing myself to experience this experience, I can have a bad relationship with this event, and then I can start to against myself and even hate myself. How you cannot just speaking English, but you already learn English when you are in high school, and in university you learn English, but I got a degree in English. And then I can use it to just create a toxic state for myself. So we can using it. So what's the taboo and what's the thing that we are not allow ourselves to experience? That's something that we can use to identify. If there's something that you are not allow yourself to experience, then it's create a toxic state. Then it's limit you to become the best that you can be. What state, feeling, experience are you intolerant about? Right? That's the words that you've been using. You are not allowed. You are intolerant. You know, what impulse do you condemn? Condemn apa artinya, Pak?
Condemn itu condemn is
menyalahkan.
Ya.
Menyalahkan ya?
Ya.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Condemn is like you're giving a damn to something. Damn you.
Yeah. Yeah. What impulse do you condemn as not acceptable? So that's also we are not accepting something. Or is there something that we are fear about? We are fear of some negative emotion. We fear about disgust. We fear about hate. We fear about anger. We fear about embarrassment. We fear about shame. We fear about what we fear about. So this is a question that we can use to identify what's the toxic state, what's the dragon, right? So usually there are some we can use sometimes to make them create 5 to 12 statement about what you expect about yourself when that happens. Right? So we can know what's our expectation. That this expectation can create the internal dragon. So after we identifying the state, let's say I have this fear of speaking in front of people, maybe. I have fear of speaking in front of people, and I don't like being embraced. Embrace bahasa Inggrisnya
embarrassing. Embarrassed.
Sorry Majuki. Okay, so the first thing that we can do, we identify the state, and then later on we name it, how we want to call it, right? Then the second thing is that usually this is, I think, the toughest part, about embracing and kissing the dragon. let's say I'm fear of being embraced. Embrace. Okay. Let's say I'm get angry, and I'm fear of being angry. I don't like being angry. And we ask the participant, do you give yourself a permission to being angry? And then the participant said, how come? Usually these steps, we need to frame. That's why I think that's why in the second day we didn't do it directly from the first day. That's why we can starting to frame, accepting, appreciation, everything. So it's much easier for them to go to this pattern, to this step. So do you have a permission to accept it as such? So let's say I run pattern once with a participant that he's not have a relationship with this event, and make her become very angry, and he didn't like her being angry, and then he start to attacking herself, that because she's become like a bad person by being angry easily, and she didn't like this angry. So at the beginning, okay, we already identified the state, and then we name, I forget how we name it, but then I asked her to, do you give yourself a permission to experience anger? Usually, it takes time. It takes time. That's why in this moment, we need to able to really calibrate how they really feel. We need them to really feel the angry. Then we start to checking. Okay, when you feel, usually we already know from this pattern, like from we are learning these patterns, that when I hate, angry, it's become like there's hate and there's angry. So like the toxic is become 2. And then I hate my hate to the anger, so it's the toxic become 3, right? But there's a difference between, okay, angry, and then this embrace the angry, so the angry, the toxic is just 1. So yeah, so this moment, usually I ask the participant to, do you give yourself permission to accept it as such, to feel the feeling, just feel the feeling. Do you give yourself a permission? Usually, this takes quite a long time. And after they accept, they didn't, at least, let's say the anger is at 8, and we need to ask, at what level now? Is it lower or what? If not, let's say from 8 to 7, yeah, sometimes I also asking them to, okay, do you really give yourself permission? Just using this word, I give myself permission to really feel. I check in with them where they feel this angry, where they feel this fear, where they feel this they didn't like kind of thing, where they feel in the body. So I ask them to really give themselves permission to really feel. So in this moment is that we ask them to be able to be in peace with the situation, with the thinking, or with the feeling. Then later on, yeah, but sometimes I using between the step 2 and, yeah, we know because this is a dancing, so between that embracing and analyzing, I usually doing it in a bersamaan. I mean, a long way.
At the same time.
At the same time, yeah, we do it at the same time. Thank you, Fan. We do it at the same times. Yeah, because sometimes they are not embracing, or then we start analyzing. Right. Now the analyzing, so I go to the next step, is that, okay, language drive and encode most meta state. Like we know that language is the one that drive and encode the most meta state. That's this language that frame the idea about the emotion, the experience, or that construct the meaning. So we know that there's this language that are being used that create this dragon state. So we are using the meta model to really identifying what's create this dragon state. What's create this dragon state? Yeah, you can use this kind of question to really analyzing the dragon state. What do you believe? When it happens, everything. So you can using this kind of question to really identify, or you have a meta model, then you can use the meta model to really analyzing what language that create this dragon state, how they believe, how they frame it. Yeah, is that a rule? Is that something? What's tabooing it? So we are using to really identify, analyzing what language that fit the dragon. That feeding the dragon. So you can using it. So until we know that there's this language that are feeding the dragon, usually we can usually when we already when they identified, okay, so this is the one that create this dragon state. Okay, so we can starving it by we stopping it. For me, it's that when we know that these words that feeding the dragon, that's this language that feeding the dragon. Yeah, this is where we challenge. You still want to use it in it? You still want to keep using it to create this kind of toxic state, right? So that's how we're using it. And then we can, when we can do the other, we metastating. Is there another way to, to frame this event, to frame this feeling, to frame this kind of thinking? Is there another way that we can create a much better relationship with the event, with the thinking, and with the feeling? Is there a frame that we can use so we have a better relationship with this thinking, feeling, event, things? So this is about the dancing with the dragon. Yeah, right. We all know that this dancing with the dragon take longer because we combine the coaching skill, because when we ask to embrace, then suddenly the other dragon is coming up. So somehow so this that's what my presentation about the dancing with the dragon. Yeah. Any add-on or any question from, let's say, Majuki, Irfan, or Hani, or maybe Zaya?
This is I honestly not really able to memorize totally the essence of this pattern. So just checking my understanding, if this is one of the most challenging pattern, what is the best way to use this for ourselves? Is there any, I don't know, is there any, based on your experience teaching APG, is there any suggestion how to use this? Should we do other pattern first, or yeah, any suggestion?
Okay, of course, there's because this is at the day two, and the third pattern of the day two, right? Yeah, of course, we need to do the other pattern first. But for me, the essence of this pattern for me is the naming and the embracing. For me, is that's the two essence of this pattern.
Okay.
How we can really naming it and we can embracing it. Then later on, we analyze and then we do the reframing part. But for me, the essence is in these two steps, the naming and the embracing.
Is there any experience the coachee cannot name the dragon? And if yes, what should we do?
Yeah. That's why we asking a lot of questions to identifying.
Okay.
That's my experience. Maybe others.
The one that I usually do is to name it silly names. The sillier, the better. So make
So
it
then
funny.
we use modality. We use the submodality approach to reframe, to reconstruct the name, right? Am I understand it correctly? If let's say, the way I name the dragon, the balloon. Let's say the balloon, the ugly balloon. So, are you using the submodality, change the balloon, the color or whatever, or how normally you use it?
In my experience, the submodality will change when the frame change.
Oh, okay. So technically, you use the neuro-semantic approach. Frame, you change the frame. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
unless it is really big, it's so disturbing, then I might ask the participants to keep it further. I think during my training, I did it only once, trying using that submodality approach. But since I asked them to make it silly names or funny names, then I think it's easier for them to analyze it. Because when you name a dragon, let's say fear, then the way you name it, make it so in your mind. So the more you make it sillier, the better. I think it's also there. Funny, silly, even ridiculous name. Because making it silly, making it ridiculous, it's much easier for the person to actually analyze it, and therefore they're nominalizing it, and it makes them more comfortable, and maybe make them see things that they've never seen on the dragon before.
Okay.
One question.
Can we do self-coaching with this pattern?
Sorry, Majuki, that's a question. Yeah, please.
Sorry, Majuki, please.
Yeah, the question that I want to ask is, there are two parts to this pattern. One, the first part is metastating events and cognitive distortion.
Yeah.
According to my count, that will be pattern number 8. And then dragon dancing is pattern number 9. The metastating events and cognitive distortion refers to bad relationships with events and bad relationships with the way of thinking, because we look at, in terms of metastating dragons, there are three categories. One is events, one is relationship, and the other is a way of embodying a feeling. So my question is, coming to the part of, the way that we handle metastating, the way of embodying the feeling, that's when we go into dragon dancing. Yeah. So where is the demarcation line to say that this is a dragon and this is an unresourceful state? Because we talk about metastating emotion. So where do you draw the distinction that now it is a dragon, not just a negative state?
I thought every... Okay, interesting question.
But I think every unresourceful state is a dragon.
It's a dragon.
For me, the most specific is the attacking, that create the internal conflict, or the attacking, the energy that if this event, this kind of thinking and this kind of embodied state that create, against myself. So that's how I call it a dragon. If I never thought of it before. Just because you're asking the question, I'm just thinking it now. So that's, I think, how I will draw the line that I call it dragon as.
Yeah. So let me ask Marzuki first, and just to clarify, so I'm not really understanding that question too. So the demarcation line between a dragon and emotions, or what is it, Marzuki?
I mean, we have a pattern for metastating emotion. So
Oh yeah.
yeah. So now we are talking about dragons. Dragons are when you are having the emotion against yourself. So when is it just a negative emotion, and when does it become a dragon?
Okay. So there's two parts on that question. First, the metastating troubling emotions are just for primary emotions. It's something that you can feel in your body. Whereas the dragon will create an emotions too, but it's more of a meta level because of a way of thinking. So the way you differentiate it is this emotions that you're feeling, is it primary or is it on a meta level? And that's why dragon comes after emotions and concepts. Because if you have an emotions that is on a meta level concept, then it might be proper or might be more useful to use the metastating concepts. Whereas dragon are more embodied. Embodied means when you are in that toxic state, you don't actually realize, is this an emotions? Is this a concept? You just feel it in your body and it's embodied in your neurology. So the way I think is emotions, metastating troubling emotions is when you deal with the emotions itself, the primary emotions. The metastating concept is when you deal with the thinking part. Whereas dragons, you're dealing with the physical body and the way you embodied it, the both thinking and feeling on your body, on your neurology. So that's why we put it outside to analyze it. We normalize it. There's one step here on metastating dragons where you put the dragon outside of yourself, and that's how you analyze it, because you're stepping back and you're giving the distance between the dragon and yourself. So I think the difference there is, one is if the emotions is primary, meaning you can feel it on your body and it's something caused by something or someone. And and you can see from the elicitation questions where it's in troubling emotions is, it's an emotions that is appropriate in the context, but you are prohibiting yourself to experience it. Whereas concept, the elicitation questions is, do you have any concepts that you have a bad relationship with? And whereas for the dragon itself, the elicitation questions is, let me see, forgot. What was the elicitation questions again? The elicitation questions. Oh, do you have a strong, unresourceful states? If so, what? And what dragons do you have in your mind about your experiences? So dragon is more about what's the experiences that you are feeling right now. And it is attacking yourself. It means it's unresourceful to you in the way you respond. So I think that's the difference. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
That part, you meant, you give the distinction. One is primary state, the other is meta state. That does make sense.
Yeah, and then dragon can also be an emotions, and dragon can also be a concept. It depends, because this is dancing. I think the way Michael put this training together is the metastating troubling emotions and the metastating concept is preparing you to handle whichever dragon comes. And I think I've combined this pattern before with metastating concepts. So when you're analyzing, when you're actually analyzing it, when you ask what's the positive intent of this dragon, essentially it's basically the same, like you're creating a new frame of thinking which is more positive than the negative ones. Or if the dragon is very strong and emotional, then I might ask, what happens if you just give yourself permission to feel that emotions in order for us to actually analyze the dragon? So if the emotion is prohibiting us from analyzing the dragon, then we can use troubling emotions. That's why dragon usually took very long. You'll never know. But one thing that I learned from running this pattern is be skeptics. Don't trust your client, because usually they're just going to give you a small dragon. But if you look close enough, if you dig deeper, you'll find the real dragon. So that's the analyzing part. Make sense?
Thank you, Fan.
Yeah, Iron, the word you said, embodied, also you did also a couple, they mentioned a couple of times, embodied, you know, the concept and embodied emotion. I think the best distinction is that word embodied, because it just, you know, even though in terms of thinking, I know that why it's happening, I shouldn't act in this way just because of my nervous system. It's just too habituated in that way. It just starts to, you know, feeling that feeling of whatever, fear or anxiety, guilt or shame, right? Because it's in my body. I have lack of control over it. And then from the coaching perspective, I guess it's helping the client to learn handle from the objective way. That's my understanding.
Yep. And usually dragons is a state. So if they're giving you emotions, then you know it's emotions. If it's a concept, then it's a concept. Dragon is just a state. Although sometimes people confuse it with feelings, but it's a state.
Right, feelings and state.
Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
Okay. Anything more? If not,
I think Honey was asking something, wasn't she? Oh, she was asking if you can do this for self-coaching.
Yeah. For self-coaching, yeah. If you have a good awareness, I believe so. You can really, I believe so. You can do it as a self-coaching. Okay. Any other thing? Wani, sorry. Okay. If there's no other thing, okay, can we finish here?
Yeah.
My headaches come more. And I starting not to have a good relationship with it anymore.
Embrace it. Embrace it.
My embracing level is already there.
Well, thank you, Yudi. That was a really good overview. Yeah.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marzuki. Thank you, Zaya, Honey.
Thank you very much.
And I think there's also Christine.
Thank you, Yudi. Thank you, Irfan.
Thank you. I'll see you.
Zaya, Honey.
Have a good day. Have a good night.
Yeah, see you next time.
I end, yeah.